As NIO stock is trading below its IPO price and a valuation that is below when it was almost going bankrupt, we in the Patreon community have discussed whether or not big investors are finally losing it and are dumping NIO stock. And these large institutions are required to file with the SEC their stock holdings. And we just got this latest filing here by Baillie Gifford, which you may know since I've done a couple of videos about investor prospectus, which they've done for NIO stock. And this is one of the biggest holders of NIO stock still today, even after NIO diluted shareholders and brought in Abu Dhabi government as another big investor. But what we see in this latest filing is the fact that Baillie Gifford luckily has not dumped NIO stock, while the stock holding is down minimally here. You see that. By the way, there is a little bit of a time lag here, so this has just been filed, but it's going back throughout the quarter. These holdings, they could by the time of now already been changed, but what we know is that in the last filing it only went down by almost 5% in holdings. So I would say this is kind of a rebalancing, maybe some opportunistic trading. Let's say maybe they've sold a little bit in order to buy back cheaper, or maybe they've sold a part of it in order to take gains, prevent losses. I don't know what's the average currently. Anyways, 5% to me does not indicate that Baillie Gifford is kind of getting rid of NIO stock here. They seem to be still a believer and holder of NIO stock, and that's also, by the way, their slogan, thinking in decades, investing in decades, and holding through thick and thin, if you listen to what one of the investment managers is saying here.
One of the important factors for us when NIO was going through some of its dark days was that William Lee was still there, was still engaged, was putting more of his own capital into the business to ensure it got through that period. And broadening that out, lots of people say they're long-term investors, but then when you look at their turnover statistics, it doesn't back up that claim. And why? It's because if you're a long-term investor, things go wrong, and forget trying to be clever and buying at the bottom of the dips, but simply enduring through those periods where things are going wrong can be extremely difficult. There have been more than 10 occasions in our ownership of Tesla where the stock price has dipped over 30%. And there's a pressure that comes with that. So it's what things do you look to simply to endure the inevitable dark days that you're going to face. And in the specifics of NIO, it came back quite strongly to William Lee, his commitment and his preparedness to put more capital into what he was doing.
Which is a great point, Tom, and it was very similar to what Elon did at the time of crisis in Tesla as well, wasn't it?
And so this tells me that one of the largest holders, and I think somebody who's really aligned with the vision and in close contact to William Lee, possibly also getting all of the things that are happening in background talks, like the Abu Dhabi deal, the new board members and so on, just getting that straight at one-on-one information from the NIO management, and they still think that that the bigger vision is in play here. Otherwise, I would say they would have possibly bailed out already, which hasn't happened so far. But overall, we have to say that institutional holdings of NIO stock and ownership has come down here, at least since the start of 2022 and the peak here in institutional ownership. It has always come down in the last couple of quarters, and that might be part of the sell pressure on the stock. However, I would say that if we compare it here, for example, to a stock like Li Auto, which we know that both the fundamentals have been doing incredibly well, as well as the stock price performance is much better than NIO's in that period of time, we can see that the institutional ownership has actually come down almost by half. And one would think that given such type of institutional ownership going down here, that people would really sell out the stock and the price is going down. But that didn't happen too much during this period as well. And so for NIO, we're back to around 30% of institutional ownership, while the public and others, so that's smaller funds and retail investors, ownership has gone up to 55%. We've been at such levels before, actually, even during the times when NIO share price was quite up. So overall, I would say we cannot really say at this point in time that there is a lack of confidence into the NIO vision here and management. Overall, this stock price performance has not triggered an exodus by institutional investors from NIO stock. But now with the share price being that low, I see out there that some people are asking for NIO management to buy back shares in order to possibly squeeze out the shorts or to at least send a signal to the market. My personal opinion is that this would be a bad idea to do. And second of all, I think it's actually also rather unrealistic. And that's because they just raised funds, they just diluted shareholders, they just raised capital just for the sake that they have a big cash cushion and that they can finance a longer period of maybe a sustained lower sales or troubles with the competitive landscape, and in order to be well capitalized, to be able to still spend on R&D and invest in, for example, infrastructure build out. And so, now buying back shares would, of course, limit the cash resources and have just the opposite effect again. I acknowledge, yes, the share price has come down significantly since the last time even they raised funds, but just in this market environment currently, it's unsure whether or not this would even help the stock price significantly. And so I think what's rather more possible, or which I personally would even hope for that it's happening, is something that also Baillie Gifford mentioned in this interview, that possibly William Li, as the main shareholder here and CEO and co-founder, is setting aside and buying a couple of shares. Maybe not an extensive chunk of shares, but maybe just a couple more with his private money. So therefore, nothing to do with how NIO is using the capital which they have in the company now. No, just from a CEO perspective, I think that's exactly what Baillie Gifford mentions. This would reinstill trust and also confidence into that William Li is still aligned also with his vision, and that he internally still sees the trajectory and believes that also the stock performance will, in the next couple of years be good again. There's actually also one prominent example of where this just happened, which is Alibaba's co-founders Jack Ma and Joe Tsai are buying 200 million worth of stock. Alibaba is a similar story right now. The fundamentals seem to be detached from the stock price performance, and it seems like those important figures here are agreeing with that and say, well, the market is undervaluing this. This is a bargain. We think we can turn around the ship, we can turn around the company and the stock, by the way, and we'll make money on that. And that's why they personally invest money in here, by the way. Fun fact, right, with Jack Ma, many people think that he's not longer interested in Alibaba, or he's even, ousted by the company and maybe under pressure by the Chinese government, and still he's investing here in Alibaba. So kind of proving the critics wrong here, but that's just a side story. Anyways, Alibaba stock reacted, I think, 8% plus on the day, actually even triggered a huge rally in overall Chinese equities. And so that would be a way for William Li to send a sign. Whether or not he's going that way, I'm not sure, to be honest. He's definitely in a different position also than Jack Ma, who's has done a successful career. He's at the end of his career. He can now reinvest its resources. William Li is much more still in the operations part involved, and I'm not sure how liquid he is with his net worth. So we'll see whether or not we'll see such kind of a sign happening. Given the stock price, it might be an important signal and the right signal to do. Let me know in the comments what you think about share buybacks and institutional ownerships, as well as the prospects of a possible share buy by William Li in NIO stock. Thanks for watching, and see you in my next videos.